What's up everyone, it's Tensei here and we have another Truesdale brother here. This time it's Syrus and we'll be looking at what I think he will get in the Speed Duel GX box in February. So, Syrus plays the Megaroid cards and that's about it. He has a couple of other things, but yeah, that's the main focus here. First we have Decoy Roid. So Decoy Roid will make your opponent attack Decoy Roid, but it's only 300 and 500 stats, so it's not very great. Yeah, it might make it, but it's pretty bad. Then Dragon Roid is a searcher, so you can discard this to add a non-wind Roid from monster from your deck to your hand, or this turn the activation of your cards and effects that include fusing can't be negated. But I don't think there's a lot of stuff that negates any summons like that. And yeah, then once per turn you can make this card in your graveyard become a dragon. So that's synergy for the Cyber Dark Dragon. If you combine both of these like they did it in the anime, so that's why it has the dragon stuff to work with Cyber Darks. But it's also really new. It's going to come out later this year, or maybe actually even early next year in the TCG, so it might just be skipped because of that. Drill Roid is one of the better options here. So before damage calculation, if it attacks defense position monster, destroy that monster. So this will still this will be an out to stuff like Black Stego or a Defense Union monster, which is really nice. It's only 1600, so not that huge, but also not the smallest, so anything like Breaker or Banisher will have to crash into it. It's pretty cool and also needed for a couple of the Megaroid fusions, which is nice since it's among the best ones. Then Express Roid, it adds 2 Roid monsters in your graveyard to your hand, except itself, so this will make your fusion summons less costly since this adds back your resources. Very good. Gyroid can be destroyed by battle once per turn, but it's at 1000 body, so it's not going to stall that much. Jetroid lets you activate a trap card from your hand when it gets attacked. So if your opponent is trying to clear your back row with anything like Night Beam or Cosmic Cyclone, you can instead keep them safe in your hand. But the downside is if they get to remove this before attacking, now your trap cards are stuck in your hand, so you can't actually use them anyway. Mixeroid can tribute a machine and summon a non-wind Roid monster from your deck, and then pay half and banish machine monsters rather, from your grave to special a Roid monster with the same level as the number of those banished monsters. So the grave effect is a little costly. You have to banish like 6 monsters just to summon a Steam Gyroid, and not to mention this also actually destroys it in the end phase. But it's kind of a free big beater you can summon with this. But it's going to take a lot of setting up to do it, so it's a little slow. But it's also a way to access any of your Roids, so this is extra copies of your Drill Roid or anything you might actually need. Patroid is not great, but it's a fusion material, so once per turn during your main phase you can look at one face down card your opponent controls and return it to its original position. So this can make sure you don't ram into anything too big, like a Black Stego again, but it's not doing much. Wait, no. But actually it's Stealth Roid that's a fusion material, not the Patroid. Anyway, when Stealth Roid attacks, you destroy a spell or trap at the end of the battle phase, but you must control another Roid. So it takes a lot of setup, it's small, but you have to run it for the Stealth Union fusion monster. Then Steam Roid gets 500 attack when it attacks, but loses 500 when it gets attacked. So it means it gets over some bigger stuff, but then anything small can run over it. So it's a bit of a two-edged sword in that way. But if you can't protect it with anything, it can get rid of a couple of your opponent's bigger threats, I suppose. Submarine Roid attacks directly, but goes into defense after attacking. And it uses the original attack of it when it attacks, so you can't like give it United We Stand and then attack for huge damage. But it's more of a slower strategy where, well, I guess if you can protect it with stuff for 5 turns, it's game enough by itself. So it could be kinda cute, and 1800 defense is not too bad to have it actually survive for a longer time. Truck Roid is one of my favorite Roid monsters. So if it destroys a monster by battle and sends it to grave, you can equip it to this card, and this gains attack equal to combined attack of all of these monsters. So the first attack might be a little harder with only 1000 attack, but if you can make it destroy that first monster, it's easier to start accumulating even more equips onto it and just make it huge. And even if it later gets destroyed, you don't really lose any resources with the equips anyway. So it's not that bad. UFO Roid is a giant rat for the deck, or any machines rather, but it's a level 6, so that's super annoying, but it is a required fusion material for UFO Roid fighter, if we get that. Psychroid is a normal monster, that's enough about that. And Ambulance Roid is kind of a cool playmaker, so if a Roid is added to your hand, you can special that monster, and it mostly combos well with Express Roid, but the issue here is that if you have Ambulance Roid up and summon Express Roid, you only have room for one Roid monster after that. So the 3 monster zones definitely limit how well you can combo this with anything. And Rescue Roid says that if a Roid is destroyed by battle and sent to a grave, you can return it to your hand, so this also combos with Ambulance Roid. But this is a level 6, and that's super annoying to get it out reliably. Megaroid City is their field spell and one of their better cards, so you can target any other card you control, destroy it, and add a Roid monster from your deck to your hand, so more consistency. And during damage calc, if your Roid battles, you can send a Roid from deck to grave and switch the original attack and defense of your battling monster. But you cannot special summon anything from your extra deck except fusion monsters the turn you activate this effect. The restriction doesn't matter since we only have fusion monsters in speed duels. But yeah, this is a really cool card. So first of all, you can destroy anything. So it doesn't have to be a Roid related card. So this means anything like Wild Tornado is fair use for Megaroid City. So you can pop your Wild Tornado and make its grave effect work. So anything like that could actually make this really nice, not to mention anything new from the Battle City GX box that would trigger in grave. And a lot of the Roid monsters do have higher defense stats, so this makes sure that you can actually just give your monsters decent stats. Especially the Truck Roid can become 2000 at once, which means it will easily destroy anything that's normal summonable, except without like a couple of exceptions. Then they have their own theme fusion spell, which is very useful in my opinion. So it's just a poly for Vicroid fusion monsters, but the monster can be destroyed by card effects and its effects cannot be negated. While there's not a lot of effect negation right now, this will stop the monster from being destroyed by Widespread Ruin or Offerings to the Doomed or XYZ Dragon Cannon, and of course anything that gets added into the speed duel box. Very useful card, and going to make them a little more unique instead of just using poly like any other fusion deck. The card that I'm a little suspicious that we might not get is Emergeoid Call. So it's a counter trap for Vicroids. You need to control a Roid fusion monster to negate a spell, trap, or monster effect. And then you can also send all cards with the same name from that activating player's deck and extra to the graveyard. Not to mention you can even banish this from your grave and target one Roid monster in your grave added to your hand. So this is really huge. You get to negate anything besides like a spell or trap effect, and then get rid of all of the subsequent copies of that card they might have. So if you have your opponent use XYZ Dragon Cannon, you negate that, and then they have to send their other XYZ from your deck extra to the grave. Now this doesn't destroy the card on the field, so it's not going to get rid of the XYZ itself, but its effects will be neutralized for that time at least. And something even huger maybe is if you negate like a polymerization and your opponent is relying on using several copies of polymerization, they lose all of them to a graveyard, and you can just ignore the polymerization for the rest of the duel. And it even gets like resources back, so it's a very good card, but I think a lot of the other Roid cards are not great, so this would be the way to make them good unless they compensate with a powerful skill. Then there's also Supercharge, so you get to draw 2 cards if your opponent attacks while the only monsters you control are machine type Roid monsters. It's a little slow, but it is drawing 2. It could be nice in a sealed format, like just the GX box cards, but I wouldn't play it in constructed most likely. And then finally, there is one more monster, but it's not actually released in the TCG yet. It's been out in the OCG for quite a while. So Shuttle Roid gets banished if it gets attacked, and then during your next standby phase you can special it back, and if it's special summoned with this effect you get to do 1000 damage to your opponent. So it's nothing too remarkable, it's just been stuck there, and maybe this is a time to give it to us collectors. And we also have extra deck monsters, of course. There are 7 different options, so at least one of them will probably get cut. But not all of them are important anyway, so I don't think it should be too much of a loss. It just depends what they actually want to give us. But a UFO Roid Fighter is probably a likely exclusion, since it's not exclusive to Syrus. So this is the fusion that takes UFO Roid, but it also takes 1 warrior type monster. I did not put any warriors here. They could give it Syrus some warriors if they actually want to give this to us. But overall, yeah. The thing that it's just a big beater, so its attack and defense become equal the combined original attack of the 2 fusion materials for this. So UFO Roid is 12 and 12. So the other, it's always at least that, but plus the attack of the warrior monster. It can be any warrior. So as the art suggests, it was used with Tempest in the anime. But that's of course a huge investment. It would become 4000 with Tempest of course, but it can be used with anything like Blade Knight. Then it's a 2800 beater, which is decent, but not amazing of course. Then for just the more pure Roid stuff, there's Pair Psych Roid, which takes just 2 machines with the same name, and it can attack directly with 16, which is almost half your opponent's life points to be fair, and it's the lowest level monster for the Mixeroid, the easiest fusion you might get with it, which is important for the mobile base, which takes a Roid fusion and a Roid monster. But before we get to that, well, yeah, Steam Gyroid is just a normal non-effect monster, nothing too special about that. So the mobile base, yeah, it takes Roid fusion and a Roid, and it's 5000 defense, which means it becomes huge with the field spell. And also you can target a face of monster your opponent controls, then special a Roid with less attack from your deck or extra deck. So this easily gives you another Roid on the field besides it, which is really cool. Of course, your opponent needs to have something big if you want to get anything huge yourself. But hey, some decks do have big monsters like a Perfect Ultimate Great Moth. And then, yeah, in the end phase, you can target 1 Roid in your main monster zone, return that to your hand, and then move this to that monster zone. So the movement effect is kind of just made to play around the extra monster zone in Master Rule 4. Doesn't matter too much here, but hey, you get to return something like Express Roid to your hand to make its on-summon effect work again on your next turn. So it still has some uses, even though the zone movement is kind of unnecessary. Then Stealth Union is a 4 material fusion, which means you need a lot of resources for it, but you have some ways to mitigate that. And once per turn you can Truck Roid, Express Roid, Drill Roid and Stealth Roid are the materials. I should say that before the effect. So it gets to equip 1 non-machine on the field to it. You can equip your opponent's monster, which is cool. And then if it's equipped with this effect, it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. and if this card attacks, its original attack is halved. So unfortunately the 3600 attack is not that great, since it goes to 1800, but it's still 36 on your opponent's turn, so they can't just run over it too easily. And if it attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing, so gets rid of some like apprentice magician stalling. It gets to attack any apprentice they set, and even if they just do apprentice into old vindictive, you still do a bit of damage with the piercing anyway, and probably equipped something in the process already. Jumbo Drill is really simple. It takes Steam Roid, Drill Roid, and Submarine Roid, and it deals piercing battle damage with 3000 attack. So also easily doing some 2k plus damage into weaker defense position monsters. UFO Roid Fighter we already covered, and Ambulance Rescue Roid fittingly takes Ambulance Roid and Rescue Roid. And once per turn, if a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, you can special that monster in defense. So it kind of combines the Ambulance Roid and Rescue Roid, but it's not... I don't quite like using a fusion spell just to summon this kind of passive card. Yeah, then finally we have 5 kind of generic cards. So Shield Crush was used by Syrus, and it's just a way to destroy any defense position monster on the field. So it's a little more generic than Nobleman of Crossout, but it doesn't do the banishing stuff. So you get to use it more often than Nobleman, but slightly less powerful. And Thunder Nyan is Cyrus's original card crush, so this is maybe a little far-fetched. I'm not sure if Konami would actually go for that anyway, but it's also a 1900 beater. It just gets destroyed if there's a non-light monster on your side of the field, but if you just play like a pure light deck, it's 1900 beater. That's not really having a downside as long as your deck is built to accommodate for it. And then the other cards aren't really Cyrus cards, but I just wanted to discuss some generic fusion support that actually makes sense since this deck mostly relies on fusion summons to make its big plays. So Fusion Recovery takes a Polymerization and fusion material from your graveyard to your hand, giving you more options to recycle your cards and do another fusion summon later. Of course, this would require Polymerization, which they might just give Cyrus the V-card connection zone, to be fair. Fusion Reserve is unfortunately a trap, but you get to reveal a fusion monster in your X-Deck and add one of its materials from deck to hand and one Polymerization from grave to hand. So it's kind of like Fusion Recovery, get poly and the material, just this gets it from deck, so you don't need to have already made a play before for that same material. And then King of the Swamp, I'm sure a lot of people are asking for this. It substitutes itself for any fusion material and discards itself to add poly from deck to hand. So again, more Polymerization consistency, but the cool part is that if you already have Polymerization, you can use this as a fusion material. Well, some of the Megaroid stuff, like Jumbo Drill, actually prevents fusion substitutes, but it's fine. You can use it for Stealth Union at least. Yeah, that's it for the Cyrus video. I hope you guys liked this video. Subscribe if you want more of this content, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.